We first met Sue Putt on Lake Pymatuning in August 2012 at the Penn, Ohio Newfoundland Club water test. In 2012, I was new to water work and knew almost nothing on the subject. But still, Sue stood out for me and did so quickly. Sue Putt knew what she wanted to communicate to Henry, her Landseer Newfoundland, and she did so in clear and concise style, but more importantly, in gentle and generous ways. A decade later at the Great Lakes water test, Sue was gracious in agreeing to the interview that you'll watch here. We talked alongside the water test events at Ramona Park in Portage, Michigan. Sue and I covered topics practical and philosophical and matters of love and loss surrounding life with the Newfoundland. For those who don't know you in the Newfoundland community, and that wouldn't be many people, with whom are we visiting today?
I'm Sue Putt.
And where are you from, Sue?
We live in Paw Paw, Michigan. My husband and I and our 4 Newfies.
And when did you become interested in dogs?
My whole life.
When did you first become interested in large dogs?
Those I liked my whole life. When I was 13, I was at a friend's house and she had a St. Bernard. And so we were playing with her dog, and her dog lunged at me and tore my nose from here to here. I had to go to the hospital and have plastic surgery. When I moved out of the home, the first dog I wanted was a St. Bernard puppy, because I didn't want to be afraid of big dogs. And that was my first large dog that I owned, was a St. Bernard.
That was a bold way for getting back on the horse for a young person that had just needed surgery to deal with injuries.
I didn't want to be afraid of them.
When did you become aware of the Newfoundland?
While I had St. Bernards, I had a St. Bernard book that talked about the history of them. And I read that at one time they were in danger of being, wiped out. And they bred them to a large black dog that happened to be a Newfoundland. That was the first time I've ever heard of a Newfie, and that really intrigued me.
You mentioned more than once liking big dogs. Is it easy to say what a great big dog brings to the table that a small dog may not bring?
I think it's their personality. To me, they're more real. I took the Newfoundland puppy, to a pet class because I knew he would outweigh me, and I wanted a well-behaved dog. So we tried the water, we tried the draft, and then I decided I wanted to do obedience and do rally. I went out and introduced myself to a couple people in the club that I knew did water work, and met up with a gal, and was when I met Cindy, and we started doing water work together. So that group, we've been working together since 2003, 2004. We get together for drafting, but drafting doesn't take a village like water work does. You need that group of people to do that type of work.
It's sometimes said that water work does take a village.
Definitely.
Say more about that. Why is that?
Well, there's some things you can do on your own, but when it comes to the water and they need to rescue somebody, you need somebody out there drowning for you. You need a boat. You need somebody to row the boat. One of the exercises, they have to pick the person that's drowning out of a group of 3. So you need 3 people out there, and one that's willing to call help, help, help. And not everybody's comfortable doing that. I think for the Newfies, they were bred to do water rescue. And so you see, at least for me, my experience with my dogs, I saw more of a drive. When you see your dog leaping into the water and rushing out to get a person or an article, it's kind of contagious, especially if they're having fun doing it.
How does it impact the way you bond with the dog?
Oh boy, a lot. Again, it's that enthusiasm to see the drive, to see the joy. It brings joy to me. You could have a bad day and go to the lake with your dog, And you can forget it's so easy to forget about everything that made that day bad and change everything around.
You were the first person that alerted me that there was art in handling the dog. Do you agree that you did develop an art and a form of communication that is different from other handlers?
So much of what I learned from suggestions from other people. My very first test, it was like, go get it. The judge came up to, and we failed that exercise. And the judge came up to me afterwards and said, do you know what marking is? And of course, I had no idea what marking was. And he said, well, talk to me after the test, and we'll have a talk. And so he did. He talked to me about marking. I'd have to say, to this day, anything that I do, it's been advice or watching other people, and picking and choosing what you want to use. You have to be one with your dog.
Is there any particular dog of those you've trained, is there any particular dog you remember well, better than others?
Henry.
And why Henry?
He was perfect. I've called him my perfect boy. He taught me a lot, and he was just very powerful. He was a powerful swimmer. He was a beautiful jumper. I felt very connected with him. I feel that way with Spencer. Truman, with him, nothing came easy with him. With Henry, everything came easy. He picked it right up. Truman made me work for every little thing that he did, and he made me a better trainer because of it.
What in particular did Truman resist doing?
Jumping. And we tried all sorts of things with him, and finally what worked, and there again, it's knowing your dog, he was afraid. He was afraid of the deep water. So, and when he finally did, it's like, okay, we're not going to do this again. We're done. You did it.
I will never forget photographing Truman jump at the Great Lakes Test
with the expression on my face.
And your response?
I was shocked. It was like, oh my God, he jumped. Now, we didn't pass that exercise, but he jumped, and that was the most important thing. I asked him to jump, and he did.
What advice would you have for people who have lost pets and are apprehensive to develop another deep attachment?
Every dog is different, and probably the highest compliment you can pay to the dog that you lost is to get another one, because it proves that that dog did its job. It wormed its way into your heart, and I'd like to vision when you get a puppy that there's a big celebration up in heaven. Yay, look at this. You did a good job. You did such a good job, they want to do this again. The joy you get from that, I think, supersedes that sorrow. It's amazing that we're willing to do it again, but I think it's worth it. I think it's really worth it.